Hello everyone, this is Peggy with Sweet Tea Makery, and I'm glad you're joining me today for this craft project. So today's project is learning how to make these folded ribbon roses. Before we get started, let me just ask if you would click on my subscribe button and also tap the bell so you'll be notified for any new craft projects that I upload or when I go live. So back to the project. Again, today's project will be a folded ribbon rose. I'm going to quickly show you just one of the projects that I'm working on. I have this adorable snowman hat, and I'm going to be adding some of these folded ribbon roses to this project. So you can add it to other projects. You don't have to just do it to something like this. You can add it to wreaths, centerpieces, swags, garlands on your mantle, your Christmas tree, vases, whatever your project is, you can add these ribbon roses to your project. So I'm going to show you now some of the tools that you're going to need to make these. The first item is going to be floral wire. So in this project, I'm using a 20 gauge wire. You can use 18, but I just prefer to use 20. It doesn't matter which one that you use as long as it's not too thick. The second item you're going to need is some ribbon. So we'll talk about this ribbon in just a minute. You're going to need scissors and a measuring tool. So for this project, since I'm in my art room, this is where I mostly do my art studio things. Of course, I have some ribbons that I'm getting ready to put in storage, but I didn't bring my cutting mat, which has, of course, rulers on it. So I'm going to use my yardstick. You can use a ruler, whichever way that you can measure out your ribbon. So we're going to tilt you down now so that you can take a look on how we make these ribbon roses. All right. So first, let's talk about this ribbon. So what you're going to need, if you're making a folded ribbon rose using a 2.5 inch ribbon, you're only going to need 1.5 yards of ribbon. If you were to use a 1.5 inch ribbon for a smaller rose, then you would only need 1 yard of ribbon. But for today's project, we're going to use this 2.5. The second item is that this project works best when your design is the same on both sides. And the reason for that is that when you make your rose, you're going to see it on all sides. So again, it's best to use a design that's printed on both sides. Now you can use a solid ribbon for this project as well. This just happens to be one I had over here. It does have a little bit of different color, but you could use a solid white, you know, anything that you think, like this one actually is this, but it's gold, but that would enhance it. But if you had a solid white or red, that would work just beautiful as well. So before we cut our ribbon, I'm going to use my ruler tape just to give me a little guidance. So we're going to put that on there. Then we're going to cut our 1.5 yards of ribbon. So we'll just spin it around here. Let's measure out 1 yard. We're going to pinch it and do our other 1/2 yard. So there it is. Oops, at 18. And we're just going to cut it. Pretty simple. Doesn't have to be a perfect cut. So now we're going to take this straight edge here and we're going to cut it at an angle. And it doesn't have to be, again, a beautiful cut. It just needs to have this point on it. And we'll just brush that out of the way. Now, we're going to actually start this project on the other end of the 1.5 yards of ribbon. We're going to start it with the flat edge. Let's see if I can scoot up, sorry y'all. So, what I want to do is I'm going to go about 7 inches in, okay? I'm going to shift that up, and we're going to make our first fold. So, this is our first fold, and it looks like this, okay? So now we want to fold this ribbon in a square design. So we're going to shift it to where this line is in this direction, directly in front of me. Okay, and we don't really need this anymore. I'm going to leave it here. We just want to focus on folding the ribbon in a square. So our second fold, we want to be sure that we're going to leave a small space in the center of our square. And how you do that is, when you go to fold, I use my finger for the width. So when we go to make our next fold, you see how we've got that started to make that little hole? And the square is starting. We need to keep that hole because we're going to use that later. Again, we're going to slide the square to the next fold. We're going to use our finger as a guide. And again, you just want a small gap. We'll just bring it down here. Press it down. And again, you see how we have that hole? We're going to continue with this hole all the way until we finish the folding process. Now, my surface is smooth, so it's easier to turn it. But if you're having a little difficulty, if your surface isn't smooth, like sometimes the cutting mats are, can have a little bit of grip to them, you can certainly pick this up and do the fold that way. But since mine is smooth, I can just turn it. So again, we're just going to continue on making this square fold until we get to the end of our ribbon. And we're always folding in this direction. So again, I'm making that. And you can also use the outer edge of the square to kind of keep you lined up. And again, we're just going around until we get to the end. Now this buffalo check is a very popular design this year. It's not just for Christmas. It can be used pretty much in any season and has been. Spring, fall. It's very versatile. But you don't have to just use the buffalo check. So, and oops, sometimes you just kind of have to lay it down. There we go. And we're going to continue folding. These roses are great because you can really put them in almost any design. It makes a beautiful centerpiece arrangement. It can be put on door hangers. If you had one that was a deer, that would be adorable. You could put it on the collar of the snowman or the snowman hat. And again, we're getting almost to the end, and we're continuing. You see, we're continuing with that hole. Keeping that. It's going to come into play in just a few minutes. Okay, so I think I've got one more left And if they get a little shifted, you can adjust them. Okay. Okay, so now we have our square folded. So I want to pick it up and I want to turn it in the direction away from me. So this is pointing in this direction and this one is in this direction. So we're going to pick it up, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that point and we're going to fold it downward through the hole. Okay? And we're going to grab it and we're going to gently pull. Okay, we want to stop when this part begins to lift up. Okay? Doesn't have to be super high, just when it begins to lift up. We're going to press our thumb here and we're going to turn it. And then what we're going to do is we're not going to pull it again. We're going to twist it. Okay? We're going to hold it for a second like this. And we're going to turn it back around just to make sure that it's in place. And I like to kind of go down to the bottom. Sometimes I'll hold it, you know, a little bit more up higher, but I usually go to the bottom. Again, I'm still holding this. So then what we want to do is, let me get a good grip on it. All right, here we go. So, and sometimes you have to nudge it just a tad, just a tad. So now we're going to start twisting, and we're going to twist toward us, towards your body. I say us because I feel like we're all here together. And we're just twisting. We're not pulling it anymore. We're just twisting. And you'll see that the rose is going to start to form. And sometimes, if it gets just a little bit tight, you can start adjusting it. And again, it takes a little time to get it to twirl around, but it will do it. And again, you can kind of start adjusting it to help it along. And again, we're just twisting. We're trying to pull. See that center coming in? We're just trying to pull it and get it going. And again, if you have to adjust it, you can. Help it along. And there we go. We keep going until you like the way that it looks. I kind of like it there, so I'm going to stop it there. And then the next step, we can readjust this after we finish the rose. So then the next step is that we're going to take this loose piece, we're going to pull it around. See, we're pulling it around the part that we were twisting. We're just going to pull it around, I'd say maybe one time. Okay. Now we're going to take our wire, our floral wire. And I like to pinch mine in half. And we're going to go over the stem. This is what I'm calling the stem, and this is the base of the rose. And we want to get it as close up as we can. We can tuck this if we want. And we're going to twist about 3 or 4 times. Okay, we just want it good and tight. And then we're going to straighten out that wire. And again, we can make some adjustments once we finish the rose. So your next step here is to decide where you want to cut this or not cut it at all. So what I mean by that is that if you are working on, say, a centerpiece, and you're going to need to put, we'll use this one as example, it needs to have some length to it. You would not cut this at all. But if you're going to use it in a project, say for this, where you don't really need all that length, okay, then you might want to trim your piece in advance so that you don't have such a long stem to work with. So what you would do is, if you're working with a shorter piece, you can just trim it right here, right now. If you want it to go full length, then you don't need to trim it at all. So then I'm just going, for example, I'm going to show you how to do it the full length. And then you can still trim it when you're done. You can still trim the end of it. I have several little roses that I'm working with right now because I'm going to do some centerpieces. So what we're going to do now is finish off the stem. So what we're going to do is we're going to start twisting that ribbon in with the wire all the way down. And you can just hold it and keep twisting and keep twisting and keep twisting and keep twisting. It's just almost like you're using floral tape. And we just keep twisting and twisting, and you can just get down to the end. And I think mine's long enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim off this extra excess. We'll get that out of the way. And now here's where you can take some wire cutters and cut this off if you so choose. But what I like to do is I like to take these two pieces and just fold them up, and then I will take that raw edge, see if we can get it turned around the right way, and we're going to just wrap it around the end, and it's just going to kind of hold it there, hold it in place. And now we've got a stem for our rose. So here's where you can start to really kind of work with how you want your rose to look. You can pull it a little bit more. There we go. I like that one. And then you can adjust the center if you choose, however you think looks best to you. So now when you do these roses, like in nature, no two things are always exactly alike. No two roses are exactly alike, but they're close enough. So you make your roses however you choose. Now, if you choose that you don't, normally you won't see this in your project. You know, for example, if I put this in here, I'll be tucking it in and putting some greenery, and so you won't see this part here. You can hide it. But if it bothers you, you can take floral tape. It comes in a variety of colors. Brown. This one is really cute and really neat. It's called glitter floral wrap. It has a glitter iridescent to it, which would kind of look pretty with that. And then there's green, of course. And I think they come in a whole other bit of colors. I can't remember. I know I have green, brown, white. I forget what other colors I have. But anyway, you can wrap. Once you've done this part, you can go back and wrap that floral tape around the stem of your rose. So that's as simple as it is to make these adorable ribbon roses. Again, you can use a solid color also if you choose. And they're really pretty too when they have that gold trim. The trim's different. It gives that kind of edge to the rose. And oh, there's so many different type of ribbons that you can use that would just make them look gorgeous. I just happen to be using my buffalo check and for my project. So I appreciate you being here today, and let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'll come back and answer them as best as I can. And if you would click that subscribe button and tap the bell so you can be notified the next time I go live with a new craft project, or I upload some new projects, then you'll get notified when that happens. So for now, I'll see you later, and I hope you have happy crafting and a blessed day. Bye, y'all.